Hello and welcome to Gabbett Media. I'm Grant Abbott and you're watching animation number 4, which was walk, or walk cycle in this particular case. It's a bit of a tough one today and it has been over the last couple of days, so bear with me. I'll show you people's work at the end and I'll talk through my process with a few tips that I've picked up about doing walk cycles. Okay, so I say it was a tough one because Blender 2.8 was being a pain once again. I really wanted to get back into Blender 2.8 because I prefer using it, but it was giving me loads of trouble. So I actually submitted a bug report. Hopefully it's not user error. I always worry that when I submit a bug report, but whenever I'd move the IK of one side, it would move the other side as if it were mirroring. And whatever model I imported, even ones that were supposedly built for 2.8 were doing that. So there was lots of issues, although there was a couple that weren't doing it, so I'm wondering whether it is a bug or not, I don't know. But there seems to be lots going on with animation at the moment, so maybe that's something they're working on. So unfortunately, back to 2.79. It's not that bad really. I just prefer the controls in 2.8. Left click makes a lot more sense. Right click scrubbing across the timeline is nice and comfy, and selecting multiple keyframes and things like that is just that little bit easier. And I prefer the feeling of it now. I suppose maybe I'm just getting used to it. But anyway, so that was my first problem. My second problem, and I didn't realise this, but using IK for arms when you're doing a walk cycle is really difficult. I suppose I ought to know these things because I'm sure I've done lots of walk cycles in the past, but maybe it's because I'm really trying to work hard on it now. Whereas in the past I'd sort of say to myself, oh, that will do, and I'd sort of get away with it in the production that I was doing, or it wasn't important. And so most of the animation I've done hasn't been production level, it's just sort of hobby type stuff. I've done a couple, but they're very basic things. So when I came to this and I was trying to do the arms, it was really problematic. And I thought to myself, it's because when you're swinging your arm, I suppose you might not be able to see this very easily, but you're swinging your arm and it goes with the shoulder and it moves with the shoulder. And that is FK because it's the parent and to the shoulder. So the forearm and upper arm are connected to the shoulder and they'll swing with it. So when the shoulder moves down or up and you swing your hips or whatever and move your shoulders like this, the arm will go up and down with it. But I found that when I was doing it with IK, because the wrist was holding still, it would just look really uncomfortable and unnatural and sort of do this sort of jolting around the place. So you'll see a fair bit of me trying to figure that out. The first thing to do when doing a walk cycle apparently is to do the contact phase. So that's where you start your walk cycle. So legs apart, contact phase, where the front foot is hitting the ground, if that makes sense. So that's the first point when you're doing a walk cycle. Sometimes it's difficult to know which point to start your cycles, isn't it? And that's what most people do. So if you're looking up any reference images online, it's that contact phase and then going between that. I will actually try and remember to share a few resources. A really good resource, I can't remember what her name is, but she's absolutely brilliant. I was looking at hers thinking I really wanted to get it to look as that good. She's using Maya for hers and it's absolutely brilliant. Mine is nowhere near that standard, but I kind of wanted to have, because a woman's walk cycle I've never done before. I've done men and they're a bit more rigid, and it's a bit easier I think with men than it is women. And it's that hip sway and that sort of quite sexy movement, to be fair. So I was trying to mimic that, and I thought that'd be quite a challenge. And this woman who hopefully I'll put the link in the description, can't remember her name, is absolutely fantastic at getting that sort of very sexualized but characterful sort of animation. The rig I'm using is, something like Chubby Girl or something off Blend Swap. I adapted it a fair bit because I thought that the original mesh looked a bit more like a grandma when I started moving it around. I don't know why, and I wanted it to have a bit more of a sexual look and a sway and a sort of sexy walk in a sense. So hopefully I haven't gone in a weird direction here, but am I sort of over-sexualizing this young model, but hopefully it looks more womanly rather than sexual. That's the idea I was going for. It's been quite fun. It's been a really good learning experience, but it was really tough, very tough. And I've spent way too long on the hands trying to get them right. And you'll see me going into the graph editor, trying to get the curves. And that's something that lots of animators seem to do. They go deep into the graph editor to try and, well, in fact, they sort of block out and then they sort of do the in-betweens, a bit of the in-betweens. And they'll go into the graph editor and sort of smooth everything out. And that wasn't working with the IK because the IK will go down and up as the shoulder goes down and up. So it looked a bit off and didn't quite work. I was desperately trying to smooth it out and move it all around, but it was tough. And also it's quite tricky to know how far to go. Well, this other person goes, she spends lots of details working on the legs and then goes to the arms and then the head, I think it was, in the last, something like that. Actually, it was legs and then torso. Oh, that's gonna mess my microphone up. Legs, torso, and then arms. And she put quite a bit of detail in before moving on to the torso and then moving on to the arms, which is quite interesting. And I'd like to know more about why that process worked for her, because I'm sort of thinking you block out, so that's your basics of everything, and then go further detail of everything and further detail of everything. But she had a great method and it worked really well. I've moved my office, hence why I've got a lapel mic, because this mic is really echoey because it's a wooden floor and it's quite bare in here. So I'm trying some sound out. So hitting my microphone there just didn't really help my cause much. So you can comment on the sound if you like, but I'll keep working on it and keep trying to get it working and correct. Yeah, I'm noticing as well, I'm going outside of my green screen about there. Oh dear, complete amateur at the moment. Anyway, back to the walk cycle. In order to make this look characterful and sexy and fun, it's those minor details, isn't it? And I had to stop early because it was being quite a pain. I'd spend, 2 hours on this. Let's just check how long it was. Yeah, it was about 2 hours, no, 2.5 hours, just on a walk cycle. So you can tell how much effort and awkwardness those hands were being. And definitely for the run cycle, which I think is next, isn't it? I can't remember now. I'm going to choose the cartoon guy because his arms seem to be stuck in IK anyway. FK, forward kinematics and inverse kinematics, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say IK and FK. You should do by now, hopefully. But his is stuck in FK and I can't seem to get the IK working, in 2.8 that is. I might have to just stick with 2.79 just for now until they sort these things out, because it's taking up a lot of time, as you can imagine, trying to figure out all the difficulties and nuances. In fact, I had problems trying to export this model as an FBX, so going back to into Sketchfab was problematic, but the uploader worked. So exporting to FBX didn't, but the Sketchfab exporter did. So it's all very confusing and very frustrating. I do appreciate there's quite a lot of people out there who are struggling to upload to Sketchfab and all those sort of things. Don't panic, don't worry if you don't get it uploaded to Sketchfab. You can still win the CG Cookie prize, but I'm not allowed to give you the Sketchfab prize. So I think this, to be fair, the CG Cookie prize is the best. 3 months worth of, is it 3 months I think? 3 months worth of CG Cookie I think is absolutely brilliant. So I'm really pleased that they sponsored us with that. I do like putting stuff on Sketchfab and I'm liking it when my models manage to get up there, but because of 2.8 and the difficulties we're having, and it is meant for that obviously, but it's really sort of pushing it as far as you can go if you're adding animations to Sketchfab. It's quite a tricky process. So what I'm saying is don't panic if you can't get them up. A video is fine and it's easy for me to review. Ideally one that I don't have to download, so upload it to YouTube and then link in Discord or Facebook. Then I can quickly see your work and quickly review it. In fact, it's helpful because sometimes I'm on my phone when I'm reviewing these, to go from to have both a YouTube and the Sketchfab link. And then if I want to review them, I can go into Sketchfab, and if I want to just look at them and see how you're doing, I can look on YouTube and it's there. The Facebook video doesn't seem to work that well. I notice when I go into it and go to a screen record, when I first play it, it's low quality, and then after a couple of seconds it goes into HD. So YouTube is probably the best option, I think. If you can put your name on the animations, that's even better, because then I won't get confused with who it is who's doing what, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do the same thing again at the end of this video, where I review people's, well, I'm not doing so much of a review this time, just watching people's work and congratulating people on their fantastic animations. So that's coming up shortly. Where are we? Just checking how far through I am. Yeah. So back to the animation. I wouldn't have thought a walk cycle was going to be that difficult, but I suppose any sort of human animation it's really quick and easy to notice when it's going wrong. I think it's a bit easier when we see animals and stuff, because we're not used to seeing them as much as we really analyse people, because we, well, as part of our culture and our growing up and everything like that, and to integrate ourselves, we look at others and we mimic them, and that's why the people around you have such an influence on you and your behaviour. So you really notice, it's the same with sculpting. I noticed that when a human face is out of proportion or not quite right, you notice instantly, whereas an animal, I don't have to spend so long before I think that looks like the animal I'm trying to mimic. I'm sure if it were that animal looking at it, they would think it was disgraceful. But, why they're looking at my work, I don't know. But with humans, anything moving, we're quick to recognise when things are out. I think it's generally the same for movement, more so with everything that moves. We notice when things aren't quite right, because there's a real organic nature to animation and movement, and that's why people spend so long on their curves, making sure they're not rigid. Because if you have vector curves, then they're more sort of robotic movements. But the sort of flowing curves on your graph editor, Bezier or whatever how you pronounce them, those are much more fluid, and that's why you don't want too many keyframes as well, because then your curves can get sort of interrupted. So you have to be a bit careful when adding your keyframes, when you're adding those sort of details. And it's only when it, well, for me, when I'm getting errors that I have to go into minute details with a keyframe. I'm assuming people noticed with the anger, and it was supposed to be a facial expression. Lots of people did sort of anger, as in sort of body anger, but that was meant to be. There's sort of like the ones, I think it's on a Monday. Hang on a moment. Yeah, they're all going to be facial expressions. So if you want the body in there as well, but the idea is to focus on facial animations. For those ones at the beginning of the week. That's the thinking anyway. It doesn't matter again if you don't want to focus on that, because it's about you and your experience and your learning. So I'm not going to criticise anybody for not having facial animations, but that is the idea behind it. And I'm assuming that people are noticing as well when you were doing the lip sync that if you had two keyframes really close together, like one frame apart, it's very stuttery. But so I always keep them at least two keyframes apart, because you don't really notice if there's a nuance that's only a frame apart. Two frames is what I'm trying to say. So the distance between your keyframes is quite important, and if you have anything that's only one frame apart, then you're really going to notice that movement, unless it's exceptionally subtle. And on special occasions I might go one frame apart. Hopefully they're still making sense and it's of use to you. I'm sure there's a few other things that I picked up today and thought, oh, that's I really need to remember that, but I can't remember what they are. I should write them all down as well. I often do, but I was a bit hectic today trying to get this to work, and it was all very frustrating. Oh, that was the other thing. Oh, there's the walk cycle. It sort of works. The person I recommended last time, I'll put his link in the description as well. He had a really great way of doing knees. So look that one up. So this is your work, excellent again from Kevin, and he's shown his planning phase. I thought that was a good idea, blocking it out with blocks, literally, and then coming in and doing the details like this, the blocking phase. The blocking phase looked really good. In fact, that's the classic, isn't it? If your blocking phase is working and it's looking all right, then it's going to start working the whole thing. And then, in fact, Kevin calls it splining, so that must be the sort of technical term, where you go in and you sort out your curves. That's brilliant work there. Julius, I just missed your name off the end there. This was a really nice one. I know it's idle animation, in fact it's a bounce animation as well, but I just thought it was really great, and I loved the body movement. Not so much the ball. I think the ball looks like it's moving in slow motion, didn't quite work, but the body was brilliant. Another great one here. I keep missing people's names as they come up, sorry about that. But I like that one. I just like the idea particularly of dropping his ice cream and the ears movement. I felt like the body could have had a bit more motion to it. Now this one's got a bit of sound, so I'll try not to speak too loudly. Excellent, fantastic work. I really like that. And Andrei Kozrenko always does fantastic work, brilliant animator. I'm glad you're with us because we're seeing some excellent work there. It looks really good, really impressed. And here's another great one. The arm movement doesn't work so well, but I like the facial animation. That's good. That's quite a fun one. There is some sound with these, so sorry if I'm talking over the top. Hopefully you can make sense of these. I like the idea of doing the facial animation with hand-drawn stuff. Of course, a bit of Sparta as well. Lovely stuff. Excellent. And this one's quite nice. A bit of physics in here as well, smashing and stuff. I didn't add any physics in this time. I suppose that's not really animation as such, more understanding the computer program. So there we have it. There's my walk cycle. I put a funny sort of green shiny material on there because I thought that looked quite funny, and just sort of generally having fun. Tough one today. Hopefully you're improving. I know I'm getting better as I go and learning an awful lot, hopefully getting better anyway. But keep animating, keep smiling, that's the main thing. Try not to get frustrated with it, like I understand if you are, it's quite a tough thing. But yeah, try and keep happy, and yeah, happy animating. See you next time.